That afternoon, the sun hung high in the sky, hot, stinging, burning the tips of the leaves and the uncovered skin. I walked slowly along the path on the edge of the rice field. The dry ground cracked, footprints left faintly amidst the flying dust. The sky, blue, almost cloudless. Only small birds occasionally passed by, breaking the silence amidst the whispering wind that rarely stopped by. The rice field swayed, not because of the wind, but because of the heat. The leaves turned yellow faster than usual, but they still stood strong, staring at the sky. Sweat dripped from my temples, down my neck, falling to the ground, mixing with the sweat of the earth that had been sun-dried mercilessly since morning. I stopped for a moment, looking around, and even though the heat was so biting, this view was still beautiful. The expansive green tempted my tired eyes, and even though the afternoon was so tortuous, here, there was a peace that I couldn't find anywhere else. My steps continued, passing the narrow, cracked embankments, with the sound of insects that never stopped, and the distinctive aroma of rice fields that wafted warmly from behind the drying mud. There was no sound of engines, no horns, only nature, and me, under a bright, burning sky, but giving peace. In the middle of the journey, when the scorching heat still wouldn't subside, my eyes caught familiar figures. My neighbors. They were still there, in the middle of a vast rice field. Bodies bent, hands agile, planting peanuts one by one into the warm soil. Their clothes were wet, not from water, but sweat, that flowed continuously without pause. Their caping hats covered their faces from the sun, but their spirits still burned. There was a little laughter amidst the tiredness. There was a joke in between the hard work. One prepared the hole, another sowed the seeds, and another covered it back up. A harmonious rhythm, like a dance of farmers who weave life from the soil. I stopped, leaning my body for a moment against a small tree trunk on the edge of the rice field, observing, and somehow, there was a different warmth from the heat of the afternoon. They did not complain, even though sweat was already wetting their backs. They did not ask when the rain would come. They believed the land would give, if cared for wholeheartedly. I smiled a little, then walked back, with lighter steps, because I knew, under this hot sky, life would still grow, with hard work, and togetherness. I tried to approach them, stepping slowly between the narrow embankments. The sound of my footsteps was drowned out by the wind that was starting to dare to come. They saw me, and smiled, a wide, honest, and warm smile, like a welcome from the house I had left long ago. Are you back from the rice fields too? One of them asked, his hands still moving, covering the small hole with soil. I nodded, sat on the edge of their rice field, and we chatted about the planting season, about the ever-increasing price of fertilizer, about their children who were starting to be reluctant to go down to the rice fields, and occasionally, a light joke that made us laugh, even though our eyes were still squinting against the glare, and their hands still didn't stop working. I admired it, how they could speak with open hearts, without ever letting go of the obligations they held. Their sweat was pouring, but there was a light in their eyes, a light that only people who love what they do have. I just sat, listening, being part of a small moment that felt so big, because there, under the cruel sun and the hot ground, I felt something precious, simplicity, hard work, and the warmth of togetherness that was not fake. It was still daytime, but my heart felt calm. They worked very carefully, yet relaxed, as if they had memorized every movement for a long time, like a beating pulse, natural, unhurried, never missing a beat. Their hands were agile, putting seed after seed into a small hole, pressing it with their rough, soil-covered fingers. then closing it with a gentle movement, almost like a caress. There was no rush, no shouting, only the sound of nature and their voices talking. About life, about the harvest to come, and about time that kept on going, but didn't need to be chased. Every now and then they would pause, to take a sip of water from a worn plastic bottle, to wipe the sweat from their temples, to smile, and then return to the earth, as if they had never really left it. I sat there, still listening, still observing, and I learned more and more, that this work was not just about planting and harvesting. It was a legacy, a patience passed down from one generation to the next, an attitude toward life, that did not fight nature, but went with it. Under that bright, hot sky, with my body beginning to feel sticky with sweat, I felt calm, because there was a lesson that was not spoken, but felt so deep, among their light laughter and the rows of peanuts that were beginning to hide in the earth. After a while of chatting and watching those hands work, I knew I didn't have long. The sun was getting higher, and the shadows of bodies began to disappear from the ground. With a smile and a small nod, I said goodbye. They replied with a warm smile, still with hands that never stopped planting hope in the ground. My steps returned along the embankment, passing the gently swaying grass, passing the sound of crickets and the wind that came back, and the scent of mud that felt increasingly familiar. I didn't bring any results. No goods, no harvest. But my heart felt full, because in the middle of the hot afternoon and the cracked land, I had time to stop by, greet others, become a small part of the calm harmony. This is how I greet them. Without promises, without plans. Just one slow step, one light smile, and a little time, in this rice field, in a place that never says, but always gives a feeling.